The Raiders are the worst team in all of the NFL. Yes, we're even worse than the New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers, the Titans. We are the worst team in the NFL. We have the worst coaching staff. We have some of the worst players. We have one of the worst ownerships, if not the worst ownership. We are just the worst in football. That's how you feel when you can't even beat the Atlanta Falcons at home in a game where the Raiders clearly should have beat them without all of the mistakes and just stupidity. I mean, it's absolutely insane. That being said, we have some really bright spots on this team. As we know, Max Crosby's out for the rest of the season. Going to get ankle surgery, so this is the most games he's ever missed, I think, in his entire career going back to high school. The injury bug has been horrendous for the Raiders in this season, and there's really, other than Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers-Johnson, who's an offensive lineman, I don't see a lot of bright spots on this team right now. I don't know how you guys are feeling right now, but I know this, and that's that a lot of you guys aren't even watching these videos anymore. And it's not just me. I have friends in the Raiders community, content community, and they're saying the same thing, that you guys aren't even watching their videos either. And we don't blame you. We don't blame you. The Raiders are not putting out a good product. Why should you watch any content about the Raiders? To be honest, the Raiders are so bad. As a Raiders content creator, full time, doing this, I don't want to make Raiders content anymore. And, over this past week leading up to this game, I've really had to think about, do I want to waste any more of my time covering this garbage team? This horrible franchise that I have supported my entire life. And now I'm basing the livelihood of my family on doing these videos and investing so much of my time that I could be investing in much more profitable avenues and spending time with my family. Instead, I'm wasting all this time on the Raiders. And the conclusion I came to is, even though I feel like I want to quit sometimes, I'm not going to. And you know why I'm not going to quit? Because it's not about Mark Davis. It's not about Tom Brady now. It's not about Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels, John Gruden, and on and on and on. It's not about Max Crosby, Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Aiden O'Connell, Brock Bowers. It's not about any of these guys. It's about the Raider Nation. So no matter how bad we're feeling right now, we know that the Raiders, if they lose the next 3 games, they'll have the number 1 overall pick, and we'll finally have a franchise quarterback, for better or worse. Who knows if Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward will be any good in the NFL? Everybody is saying this is a very weak draft class for quarterbacks. And of course, weak draft. And of course, this is the year that the Raiders will have either the number 1 or the number 2 draft pick. But at least we'll have that answer written down. It's in the books. We got a franchise quarterback. We drafted the guy number 1 or number 2 overall. And now you've got to rebuild this team. And I've got to tell you, I honestly don't believe Antonio Pierce is back next year as head coach of this team. I honestly don't believe that. There's a lot of rumbles about Mike Vrabel, but Mike Vrabel, he also comes with a lot of baggage and issues. He's apparently a jerk to work with. That was the knock on him before as a head coach. He's not very relatable. Well, we had a coach like that in Josh McDaniels. I'm not sure that Mike Vrabel would be the head coach next year of the Raiders either. I think that the Raiders, if they're going to replace Antonio Pierce, you've got to go and you've got to get a young, relatable, offensive-minded coach that's going to be innovative and inspiring to this team, because that is something that the Raiders have lacked for several years now. So if you're going to get the franchise quarterback who's going to be the guy for years to come, you've got to have the guy coaching him that can take him to another level. Ben Johnson with Detroit is playing a major part. I know Dan Campbell is the head coach, but I think Ben Johnson, I think the Detroit Lions without Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator are not as dynamic of an offense that they are right now. That they do not play at the level they're playing right now. Dan Campbell is the glue of that team, but the brains of that offense is Ben Johnson. If he's available and the Raiders can somehow coax him, because we have the number 1 overall draft pick, we have the franchise quarterback, we have the rookie of the year candidate in Brock Bowers, first tight end in over 20 years to be named as a rookie, first team All-Pro, that's a big incentive. And then what the Raiders do with their remaining 7 picks after their first pick, because we have 8 picks, that's going to have a lot to do with the success of this team next year and turning this thing around in a single season. And again, we've now seen this several times where Washington was the worst team in the NFL. Now they're going to the playoffs. Houston Texans were the worst team in the NFL. Get CJ Stroud. They immediately go to the playoffs. Denver, one of the worst teams in the NFL last year. Get Bo Nix. Now they're most likely going to be in the playoffs. They're basically fighting for the 5th seed right now. But you got to have the right head coach. In all of these situations that I just named, they all got a new head coach who could take the team, turn it around, and go to the playoffs. I don't think that's Antonio Pierce. If you agree with me, drop a comment down below and let me know. If you disagree, tell me why Antonio Pierce, after this season, this debacle, deserves another chance with a first-round draft pick quarterback under the helm. Do you trust Antonio Pierce with this team that much? Because I personally, and I'm the first one to own this because I was one of the biggest people calling for him to get a shot at head coach because of what he was able to do as an interim. But he's clearly not ready. He is clearly not ready at all. I don't believe it. And so if we're going to turn this thing around, you have to turn the car all the way around, and you got to get a new bus driver to drive this bus. Because right now we're headed in the wrong direction. Guys, if you want to see me survive out in the wildness in my other YouTube channel, Black Rain Official, aka Bro, and have some serious failures out there, which are kind of funny, but very dangerous at the same time, go ahead and click on this video right now. I'll take you over my other channel. Go check that out. Support me over there as well, as much as you have over here. Love each and every single one of you. Let's go Raiders 2025.